Oh, I don't know. Let me go look it up. So I do, you know. But they always say, well, how do like vegans and vegetarians get the proper amount of iron that they need? Some of our plants have a good source, okay? Now, does that mean, even though they're supposedly known to be a good source of it, do they have it? No. Why? Because of our agricultural processes. But don't get me started on that topic. But for the most part, we are dependent upon our diet to get iron. So here's what has to happen, okay? When we eat, all right, and we hopefully have an iron source, the two forms that can exist, a ferric and a ferrous, and they are ions. Ions mean there's an electrical charge. Therefore, the 2 plus 3 plus. Do you guys remember ions? Okay. Well, when we eat, hopefully the foodstuffs go to our stomach. If they don't and it tries to go down the other pipe, you're going to choke. Okay. Just saying. So foodstuffs will go to the stomach where we have acid. All right. Roughly pH of about 2 for that acid in the stomach. And we need that because the part that the body, the ion I should say, the body can use is the 2 plus. So our stomach acid, if we've consumed any of the 3 plus, it'll convert it. Once we convert it, we need to transport that iron. So the stomach can produce a little transport molecule. It's called gastroferritin. The ferra from iron, gastro from the stomach, and we can take it to the intestines. Now, have you ever seen the structure of the intestines? What is it? Small. Because that's where the stomach enters. The stomach enters the small.
Well, I know like they have like microvilli inside, like in the surface area is huge.
Exactly. When you dissect, and if you were to remove the small intestines, take them out, cut all of the mesentery that holds them together, and then lay them out and stretch them out, and then begin to make a cut right down so you can open it like a book. It looks like all of these finger-like projections, and they're called microvilli. Now, how long are the small intestines on average in an adult? Over 20 feet. Okay? So think about that amount, that length, and then this structure that's on the inside. That is a ton of surface area, meaning a huge amount of space. And when I say very well vascularized, I mean very well vascularized. Get a gut shot wound, if it doesn't get fixed within about 20 minutes, you're dead because of the blood loss. Okay? So it's huge. That means those little microvilli, the foodstuffs that are passing over it, have a chance to get absorbed into the bloodstream. So that once they're absorbed into the bloodstream, they can make their way to the cells of the body that need them. So once I eat and once I get 2 plus, once the stomach says, okay, here's your little molecule to transport, okay, I then get to the intestines where I get to reach the bloodstream. The bloodstream has one of those little proteins in it. Do you remember us talking about the proteins in the plasma that would work for transport? y'all remember us talking about those little globulins? Okay, so in my bloodstream, I have transferrin because I'm going to transfer the ferra iron somewhere. That's cool, y'all, right? Okay, so it'll take it to the bone marrow, the liver, other tissues where it might encounter the areas of the cells that might need them. When we get to the marrow, that 2+, which the body can use, it'll help make, because synthesis means to make, synthesize that hemoglobin. Because I have my globin portion, I need the heme. Does that make sense? And muscle, it will go and make myoglobin, which is a protein in muscle that'll bind oxygen, meaning muscle, skeletal, smooth, mostly skeletal, okay? But we also need heart to do some stuff. Trust me on that. And then we can have it go to almost all the cells of the body where it will be used by the mitochondria to make, do you guys remember talking about cellular respiration and in the membrane of the mitochondrion, how we would shuffle those energy molecules and they would bounce down the electron transport chain? Well, what it bounced on was cytochromes. They have an iron component. So it'll be used in the cell to help make those so that we can make energy for the cell.
I have a question real quick. With the myoglobin, is that what's used for like to help with muscle contraction?
Yes.
Okay.
Especially in the time of strenuous use.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Now, the liver. Now, when I say the liver is busy, that's an understatement. Okay, the liver can bind anything that might be extra in that 2+. It can bind it, but chances are, unless you have a really good diet, unless there's really, I mean, a lot of times the majority of the population is lacking iron, anemic. That's what it means to be anemic. Okay, you don't have the iron available to go to the hemoglobin to attach the oxygen, therefore tissues are not getting what they need. Okay, so if there's anything extra left over, the liver can say, well, come here, I've got a protein you can attach to and I can store it. And so it's called apoferritin and creates a little complex molecule. When the body needs it, the liver will just release it in the 2+ form. That's what this picture is showing. Sounds like a very complex process, but hopefully breaking it down like that helped explain what happens with that iron that we get into our system and our usage of it, because it's extremely important. It's very important to have that amount of iron in the body so that these red blood cells function properly. Yes, no, maybe. Okay, so basically this is showing us digesting it, going to the stomach binding it, taking it to the small intestines, getting into the blood transporting it, anything extra, the liver storing it. If we need it from the liver will release it. Kind of cool. Well, just like everything else, and I've kind of mentioned this right here. Okay, so these red blood cells, well, yeah, they need to be kept within homeostatic ranges. We don't want too much in the blood because they will make the blood thick. Are there disorders for that? Yes. Okay? And we don't want the number too low because then we're not feeding the cells and the tissues what they need. Are there disorders with that? Yes. Okay? But in the homeostasis of the body, the goal is for our majority of the kidneys, the liver can help, to detect the oxygen amounts, the red blood cell amounts, and then if we need to, secrete erythropoietin for it to go to the bone marrow, stimulate red blood cell production, get a higher amount of RBCs in the blood, therefore picking up the oxygen and therefore detecting or picking up on a higher oxygen amount in the blood and erythropoietin stopping. So this is a process that once again is controlled by negative feedback. And because if it were positive, we would get an overproduction and things would go wrong. So negative feedback is going to help with the control of red blood cell production. Yes, they have a lifespan. Their lifespan is roughly 120 days. Now here's their life. Once they are produced, they circulate around the body every minute. So every minute for every day for 120 days. And I've not done that math, okay? They're circulating around the body once, meaning squeezing through all of those little microscopic capillaries. But I mean, they take a beating, all right? By the time they reach the end stage, they're in rough shape. I mean, because one of the things that they can't do is repair, okay? So they're jagged and rough and missing parts of the, they're pretty beat up by the time they reach the end of their lifestyle. So a lot of the death of the red blood cell occurs in the spleen. Now, does that mean it can't occur in other places? Of course not. Because people can actually have like a car wreck or something and have to have their spleen removed, okay? The liver will simply take over and break down the red blood cells. That's why you can live with, it's not a good thing, okay, to live without the spleen, but you can. But when we look at what happens, they're going to break down by hemolysis. Lyse means to break, okay? Hemo meaning the blood cell. So what happens? Well, now remember, in that red blood cell, I've got an iron attached to a heme on the globes, the globins, the chains. So that tells me I have some iron, metal, so to speak, and then I've got that chain of amino acids. I really do not want all of this stuff to leave the body. So, as that red blood cell enters the spleen, the structure of the spleen is reticular. Remember how we've got 3 fibers? Collagen, elastic, reticular. Reticular means that the ends that are there are very jagged. Now, in the spleen, having that structure, if I have a red blood cell come through that's already jagged itself, guess what will happen? It'll catch on one of those little jagged edges and then rip apart. And now all those